Sesaat lagi Anda akan menyaksikan The Big Idea Forum in association with
Today, we delve into how this vibrant nation is embracing the digital era, propelled by the ambitious Making Indonesia 4.0 initiative. Indonesia's digital journey is vast and challenging. With over 17,500 islands, improving connectivity is a monumental task. The e-commerce sector is booming. By 2023, Indonesia boasts over 15 unicorns and 2 decacorns. Yet, the journey is just beginning. The government is proactive, collaborating with e-commerce platforms to streamline services and bolster MSMEs' digital capabilities. The economic potential is staggering. Digital transformation could add up to $2.8 trillion to Indonesia's economy by 2040, underscoring the immense benefits of embracing digitalization. However, challenges abound. Infrastructure and connectivity remain significant hurdles, while Indonesia's vast and varied geography complicates efforts to achieve uniform digital access. Digital adoption among MSMEs is still low. Addressing this is critical, as these enterprises are the backbone of the economy. Regulatory changes, especially in data management, pose additional challenges. Businesses must adapt to new standards. To address these issues, the Big Idea Forum on Indonesia's digital transformation is a pivotal platform. It brings together industry leaders, regulators, and experts to strategize and find solutions. Indonesia's digital transformation journey is both promising and complex. By overcoming challenges and leveraging opportunities, the nation is paving the way towards a golden era by 2045. Together, we can build a prosperous digital future for all. Together, we can make a difference.
Hello and welcome to the Big Idea Forum. I am Desi Anwar, the AI version, and it is my honor and pleasure to be the host of this talk show. The Big Idea is a collaborative international forum designed to bring together decision makers ranging from industry players, regulators, and the best minds from all sectors to strategize and find solutions to challenges brought by technology, innovations, and all things digital impacting our world and society in order to pave the way to a golden Indonesia by 2045. The forum is produced as a televised event that will be aired on CNN Indonesia and amplified as content on our multi-platforms in the transmedia universe for greater impact. Our topic for today is Quo Vadis, Digital Transformation Indonesia. So without further ado, please put your hands together and let the show begin. Big hands, please, for my AI. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is not me. As you can see, it's my AI version. And you know it's not me because it's got an Australian accent. I've got a British accent. So it looks like I'm going to be out of a job soon. And isn't it scary to think that we're all replaceable someday? Anyway, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a very, very big welcome to you all. Once again, welcome to the Big Idea Forum, a platform for knowledge sharing and the exchange of ideas on important issues. And now, before we begin, I'd like to thank you all for joining me and joining us in our program, and particular thanks to our partners. We have from BNI and Mowilex and also Indosat. Thank you very much for your support. And of course, our friends from the Chambers of Commerce, associations, industry, and we have here some young entrepreneurs from various startups. And our topic for today is Quo Vadis Digital Transformation Indonesia. And with us, we have a very, very distinguished panel to discuss the best ways to navigate this extremely complex and yet promising journey. So it's my great pleasure to introduce and welcome Indonesia's Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs, Pak Airlangga Hartarto. Welcome, Pak Airlangga. Now, Pak Airlangga has been my constant sparring partner in putting this forum together. And of course, he is responsible for creating the roadmap for Indonesia's digital transformation. So all eyes are on you, Pak Airlangga. So we also have with us the Director of the ASEAN Integration Monitoring Directorate, ASEAN Secretariat, Ahmad Zafarullah Abdul Jalil. Welcome, Zafar. And hopefully Zafar will give us the regional perspective. And also welcome to my good friend here from the UN Industrial Development Organization, representative for Indonesia, Timor-Leste and ASEAN Affairs, Marco Camilla. And Marco, thank you for coming, and we hope to have more sort of a global perspective to this program. And also I'm happy to introduce our knowledge leader, Shirley Santoso, President Director of AT Kearney, Indonesia. Shirley, thank you very much. And last but by no means least, we cannot have a discussion on digital transformation without the biggest name in the industry joining us, Putri Alam, Director of Government Affairs and Public Policy of Google Indonesia. And just in case you don't know who Putri is, I suggest you Google her. As we've seen in the video, Indonesia's journey of digital transformation is a complex one, filled with many potentials and equally as many challenges. So collaboration is key, obviously, and this is where you can all come in. So at some point, I will open this up to the forum, and you can ask, and also you can also make comments and give your perspectives. So this, I hope, will be a dynamic and with lots and lots of feedback. So I will now invite our speakers to open up this discussion, to give their perspectives and also to set the scene of where we are in our digital transformation. Now, how about let's start with you, Minister Airlangga. So we have the roadmap. Where are we now? What has been done? And are we on track?
I think first I would like to explain that at the moment Indonesia is performing well economically. So our past until today, we are a resilient country with a growth of 5.11 and inflation of 2.84. We are the top 5 even within the G20 countries. And with this resiliency, I think Indonesia will embark on the next phase, which is to achieve the Indonesia 2045. Our aspiration is that at that time we are 320 million people, and our income per capita is like the gentleman in this room, $26,000 per year. So it means that Indonesia will becoming the 9 trillion economic at that time. So with 9 trillion economics, today German is around 6 trillion economic. Mm-hmm. So we will be the top 4 at that time. In order to do that, we have to restart many engines. First, of course, the engine of manufacturing sectors, which Indonesia has launched the Making Indonesia 4.0 in 2018. It means the sector of textile, automotive, and then of course petrochemicals, in the food and beverage, including textiles and multifarious industries. The digitalization of those industries is very important. They already use the AI, what we call machine learning, machine-to-machine communications. So practically, the investment in Indonesia going forward will be more to capital intensive, and of course needs a new skill of people. Then we have the second engine, that the discussion what we have today is on digital economy. That our aspiration is that today our economic is around 80 billion, and we expect 2025 it can be increased to 125 billion, and in the 2030 around $400 billion. So the growth of the digital sectors is not straight line, it's not linear, but it will be a jump in certain phases. So what is important for us is that the Indonesian people will be ready for that. And part of it, the government has do what we call the reskilling and the upskilling for the human resource. The reskilling and upskillings, during the COVID, we have what we call the prakerja. So that is the first government-to-people project. I can claim that that is the first in the world, in which we do the empowerment of people through training.
It's the first in the world, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The prakerja.
The prakerja. So we give the people tailor-made education, and we give not only to one people, but in the 3 years we give to 18 million people. They do the training what they want, and if they completed the journey, the government give social benefit. During COVID, 600,000 for 4 months. So after that, of course, they can go to they can become entrepreneurs, or they can become, they work into the new jobs. So now we have, Indonesia is the country that more unicorn and decacorn comparing with other countries, including Japan. Why we can do that? Because we are integrated in the ASEAN. And our platform, mostly the language like Google in English. If you see Japan and Korea, they cannot expand the market. And on top of that, we introduce what we call a digital economic framework agreement. We would like to push one more step. I said that with business as usual, Indonesia economic for digital is only 1 trillion in 2030. But if in ASEAN we integrate, the economic will be in ASEAN between 2 trillion. So this is really a game changer. Among others, of course, data security is a challenge.
Yeah, very challenging.
Yeah, so that's the key. There is no digital without data securities. And then, of course, the interoperability will be an issue. We have a jungle of program, even within a lot of ministries. So we need to interoperable between, among others, and also in ASEAN. And we have start further than any other countries in the world, in ASEAN, that we integrate the digital payment with local currency settlement, with QR. So the ASEAN people, Indonesia, the 5th ASEAN, can travel within an ASEAN and use their own currency. So eliminate the role of US dollar as a broker of currency. So I think that's also increased the resilience of the Indonesian.
So we can go to Vietnam, for example, Malaysia,
Vietnam,
we use a QR code.
Thailand, Singapore with QR code.
And that's already implemented?
It's implemented, yeah. So I think we need further enhance those. Of course, we need to increase into the business to business also on the corporate side. And I think with that, I would like to make a conclusion that our current situation, Indonesia is resilient, and our future is bright.
Okay, and we're on.
Thank you.
Well, if you're not optimistic, how can we? But we are. So you're saying we are on the right track.
Yes.
Just very quickly, And this is sustainable by Erlangga, because we do have a new government coming. This is
I think
all
it's sustainable because of we are living in the very interesting time. I think we are quite lucky that we have a revolution of industry, from the steam engine to the mass productions 2.0, and then from industrial, after that on the manufacturing side, which is assembly line and all that, now 4.0. Now we are in the revolutions of more detail. The heat transfer, the thermodynamics change into electric magnetics that goes into electric vehicle, renewable energies. And digital. That's need one commodity, semiconductors.
Yes.
And semiconductors, Indonesia is lucky. We have nickel, we have gold, we have copper, we have tin, we have rare earths, we have hydropower, we have geothermals. What else do you want?
We need investors. That's
We
what
need investors.
That's what we want.
The only things that we want is money.
Yes.
So we came to one industry yesterday, special economic zones, when they have gold. Freeport, with the new refinery, they can absorb 3 million of copper concentrate. They turn into 1 million of copper, we call it cathode, 99.99% pure. And then they can produce 50 ton of gold, 50 to 60. The value of 50 ton of gold is about 4.5 billion per year.
Yeah.
And the investment of the refineries, the largest single line in the world, is 3.7 billion. And within 30 months, it's completed. So this is an extraordinary. But the value of 50 ton of gold is 4.5 billion US dollars.
Okay.
So if you put annuity every year to produce that, it's 45 billion per year. So don't worry, we have everything.
Okay. Well,
Except investment is needed.
except even,
So
well, and we have to be very
the money from the investor.
We also have to be very careful in Gresik. There's no kind of big bank robbery, because it's full of gold there. But just very, very quickly, you've been traveling a lot, Erlangga, and you went to all over the place, including to Russia. Can you just quickly gauge the interest that Indonesia still have for our international friends? Are they still sort of gung-ho? I know we were the sort of G20 president and chairman of ASEAN.
First, Indonesia is important to position itself in the geopolitics. The geopolitics today is strong. Today, language and diplomacy is geoeconomics. When Indonesia can lead the G20, which is 80% of the global economy.
80%.
80% of the global economy. And we manage the G20 during the most turbulent time, where it is the tailwind of the COVID, and then the beginning of the war in Russia and Ukraine. No one can see what is the end of the tunnel. And Indonesia took the baton of the G20 after the Indian is give up. So Indonesia put the step forward to lead the G20. In the beginning of the G20, the G7 said that if Russia was invited, they don't want to come. So if the G7 is not coming in the G20, there will be no G20. So there is a challenge of, is this the end of the G20? But the maneuver that's made and the leadership by President Joko Widodo to go to Ukraine by train from Poland, and then after that go to the Russia, meet with the Putin, that was extraordinary. Other country cannot say anything because Pak President come to the war zone and dare to see eye to eye with those two leaders. So that's the geopolitics is important. After that, Indonesia is leading the ASEAN. And then ASEAN is becoming the only region that is no tension, quote unquote. Of course, there is tension between China and US, but there will be always a tension between China and US anyway. Country who would like to become number one is always have a fight with the country that is already number one. So that's the power of the supremacy. So Indonesia needs to be everywhere. So we deal with Europe for EU SEPA, so we can be a friend of Europe. We are in the ASEAN, friend with China, with RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic of Partnership, all in the Indo-Pacific with China. India is out. But we are also with India and US in the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework that is signed 2 weeks ago. So we are friend and ally of these economic blocs. And of course, the last things that we do, we would like to be part of OECD's 37 countries. That is beyond Europe. It goes to South American and others.
And we're already
we are part
a member,
of the accession.
we will be.
It will be a journey for 3 years.
Okay.
So on economic front, we are front of everyone. And on my last trip to Russia, we are still in negotiation for Eurasia as well. 5 countries in Russia. So we are looking forward, not we are looking backward or under the current situation.
Yeah, that's a good point. We need to look forward.
Right.
And also show us the money, right?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Erlangga, so we are in a good place. Maybe over to you, Jafar, put it in the ASEAN context. And, ASEAN's we've been signing all sorts of things also, particularly on the digital transformation. Tell us a little bit about what's happening in ASEAN, and particularly, how do you see Indonesia in all of this?
Thank you. So I think Pak Erlangga clearly elaborated on the positive outlook of Indonesia, and I would say that similar optimism is also observed across all the member states of ASEAN. And let me share a little bit of figures on statistics on the huge potential, especially on digital transformations that we're witnessing, not only in Indonesia, but also in ASEAN as a whole. So Pak Erlangga mentioned just now about the huge size of digital economy that will further be amplified if you were able to finalize DEFA by 2025. We are talking about $2 trillion in 2030. And I think there are several factors that contribute towards this huge potential. One is our internet users. So we are not just talking about internet users, but we are talking about engaged and active internet users. So we have around almost 500 millions of internet users, and then 80% of them are active digital consumers.
And they're mostly young consumers,
and then that's another point that I would like to stress, the fact that these internet users are very young, and this is also due to the fact that our populations on average are very young. So I think the average age of ASEAN populations is roughly around 29. So you know how the Gen Z are, how engaged they are when it comes to digital technology, how savvy they are. So everybody here has daughters and sons, and then see how, to what extent they have been using internet, and then
they're addicted.
Yeah, they're addicted to it, and then so this speaks about the huge potentials, and then the infrastructure in terms of the expenditures that the member states are being putting into their infrastructure, both soft and hard infrastructure. I think member states are investing a lot, including Indonesia, to ensure that we have the right infrastructure, so that our people will be able to benefit from this digital age. So given this huge potential, so I'm not going to share too many information, otherwise we'll be overwhelmed. But then, given this huge potential, I think ASEAN has realized the importance for us to work collaboratively across all the member states, and we have put a lot of initiatives. So we have also roadmaps at the regional level. But I think what's more important is not the roadmap itself, is what are the concrete initiatives that we put in place within that roadmaps. So the current roadmap that guides us in terms of our digital transformation journey is what we call the Bandar Sri Begawan roadmap. So the name Bandar Sri Begawan because it was launched during Brunei chairmanship. And then the idea is actually to accelerate our economic recovery because we are in the midst of COVID-19 pandemics. And we believe that digital transformations is one of the tools that we can leverage on to accelerate our economic recovery from the pandemic. So within this roadmap, I think we have put in place several concrete initiative that we want to implement. Let me share just a few of them. One is, I think some of you may be aware of the ASEAN Single Window. So basically, it's a digital platform that connects and integrates the national single windows of all the 10 member states. So basically, what it does is it helps our businesses who want to do business cross-border, so they no longer need to do physical submissions.
Is it up and running already?
Yes, but then it's still at the, I mean, it's been running for a while, but then in terms of the number of documents that can be exchanged digitally, I think we are working on increasing the numbers because we are not just exchanging one documents, right? So there are several documents that are being exchanged for cross-border transactions. I think e-Form-D is already exchanged electronically. We are looking into expanding the numbers of documents that we can exchange electronically. And then I think it's also important to stress the fact that we are not just looking within ASEAN. So we are also looking into expanding this single window to enable it to connect with our dialogue partners.
But this is all online, presumably.
Yes. So
security is good, right?
Obviously.
You don't want any data leaks.
Obviously, I think we cannot be 100% sure.
Got to make sure.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take note on that. And then I think in terms of cost saving, I think that's the tangible benefits of having this ASEAN single window. So in 2022, there has been 1 million e-Form-D that has been exchanged through this platform, and then this is equivalent to a saving of 6 million number of days for businesses. So I mean, it saved them a lot of times. And then when you save numbers of days, you also save a lot of money, right? So if you were to translate it in terms of money, it's around 150 million, which is quite a lot. It's not billion, but then it's still quite a huge sum of money that's been saved by our businesses. I would also like to mention the other important initiative that we are putting in place. It's still at the initial stage, which is the unique business identification number system. Okay. So basically, we are talking about digital identity for businesses. This is something that
we're doing in Indonesia, like single ID.
Yes, but then for businesses, so that we, I mean, it's about simplifying cross-border transactions, reducing administrative burdens, and also, I think most importantly, it's about building trust and also reducing the risk of fraud. Right, and then and hopefully, if we will be able to launch this, then we'll be able to again save a lot of costs and then grow the businesses in the region. But then I think Pak Airlangga has mentioned earlier. I think the boldest move now is DEFA, obviously. So it's something that I mean, we like to say that this is the first region-wide agreement in the world, and then because of that claim, so everybody is watching us. So to what extent we'll be able to deliver. Our negotiators, I think, are hard at work negotiating this. I think there have been 4 rounds of negotiations. Good progress has been made. Just to share a little bit what will be in the DEFA. So basically, we have been when in coming up with the DEFA, I think we did a study.
DEFA is the Digital Economic
Framework Agreement.
Framework Agreement.
So we did a study and then we engaged with the businesses to see what they want to see in this DEFA, right? I mean, we don't do this just for for having an agreement. It's also about how this will be benefiting the businesses. So their views are very important. So I think the BCG team who did the study, I think they have done like 2,000 consultations with all our stakeholders across the board. And based on this consultation, they come up with 9 priority areas that we should be looking into in DEFA in order for us to achieve that $2 trillion size of digital economy by 2030. So this 9 areas, quickly I will just mention it, is about digital trade, cross-border e-commerce, basically about further develop our digital trade. But then having an e-commerce segment is also about ensuring that our MSMEs would also be benefiting from this.
Absolutely important, yeah.
And it's also about interoperability. Airlangga mentioned also about just now about digital payment, interoperable digital payment, as well as having a digital identifications and authentications. And it's also about ensuring that it's secure, it's ethical. So we have a few focus areas on cybersecurity, cross-border data flows, competition policy to ensure that it's been done in a fair manner. And finally, it's also about cooperations on emerging technologies and as well as talent mobility.
In association with
Marco, from UNIDO's perspective, tell us, how do you see Indonesia and how are you from UNIDO, Industrial Development Organization, work together for us to kind of leapfrog into our bright digital transformation?
Thank you, Desi. So I want to say that the main role of the United Nations is to provide a platform for negotiation, for discussion, and for knowledge sharing. And this is an example. This won't be possible without the press. I want to say, because we are talking about making Indonesia 4.0. Indonesia 4.0 is the action plan for Industry 4.0, and later what it was called the Fourth Industrial Revolution, with a couple of books that was published by the World Economic Forum. So it's already 14 years old, and we have very recent shocks in the world and in the digital transformation space that we have to take into account in order to formulate policies and in order to discuss and upgrade our policies on digital transformation. And this, I will say, 3 is the new economy, the new normal. One of these is the arrival of artificial intelligence. That is not much one of the major technology, but is that technology. And this technology has a day even, it came out with OpenAI, a firm in San Francisco, November 2022. So this changed the whole game, because this for first time, something that is the so-called Turing test is when you talk to a computer, you don't see the computer, but you don't distinguish, you don't know if it's a person or a computer. And this has been possible. Many people think that this was impossible to achieve. And suddenly we have it. So that means this is a technology that is integrating, is a general purpose technology, and we have to be prepared and to design our policies based on this new trend. The second, and Minister Airlangga also has talked a lot about this, is the industrial policies. Industrial policies that are coming not in developing countries, but in high-income countries, in large economies. We see this in the United States, we see this in the European Union, in China, Japan, Korea, of course, implementing industrial policies. And the main effect of this in developing countries is that developing countries will have to adapt to this new world, because on one side, high-income countries are implementing industrial policies, but they are relatively close in the economy. There are some geopolitical frictions, but at the same time they are telling developing countries, open your economy, negotiate. So let's negotiate the WTO free trade agreements. So this is contradictory, and I think this is something that is a future agenda that is necessary to address. And also it can be a little bit more difficult to hire an expert from one country or another, or to use some technology from one country or another. So I think it's important, and Minister has indicated how Indonesia positions in this geopolitical friction. And number 3 is the green growth. Green growth, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, we could say from developing countries that environmental policies is a luxury, because it's very expensive. And as a businessman, companies, so implementing all this requirement that comes with green growth, circular economy, sustainability, labor standards. So it's not something that comes for free. It's something that you have to invest. So large corporations, they can transfer this to prices, and then the consumer pays, because it's a luxury, sometimes it's a luxury brand. But small and medium enterprises, they cannot transfer this. They have to assume this cost. And this is also a main challenge in a country like Indonesia, where 90% of companies are small and medium enterprises. So I think it will be necessary for large corporations in Indonesia and SMEs to work together on how to address this. So these 3 things, and then in light of digital transformation, means that digital transformation is more needed than ever. It's absolutely needed. Digital transformation will be the main platform to make all this possible, to advance on new industrial policies, to advance on tackling artificial intelligence and knowing what it is, not only saying, oh, this is dangerous, we don't know how to do, but at the same time understanding artificial intelligence. And we can talk more later about this. But also on environmental policies. So everything that is related with circular economy right now is based on a platform that is digital, and also more and more artificial intelligence is being applied to these processes. So this is something that developing countries, Indonesia and other countries in ASEAN, of course in ASEAN provides a great platform to do all this in an integrated manner, is something that is the task for the future.
Okay, Marco, I think you raised a very interesting point. I mean, AI, obviously, this is something that, we don't know what's going to happen with AI. Again, it's happening. Daisy Anwar, AI is already taking over my job. I mean, soon I will be out of work, so what's happening in that direction? But you mentioned about policies, industrial policies, and because we have policymaker here, what do you think of, in terms of the right policies, particularly for Indonesia in its digital transformation? Obviously, Pak Erlangga is very optimistic, but do you have any sort of input recommendations on the industrial policies that are needed for a country like Indonesia? Huge potentials, but also many challenges.
I'm very optimistic as well. Yeah, I think there are a lot of opportunities. I just want to say that probably it's necessary, not only Indonesia, but developing countries, to have a specific agenda on artificial intelligence. But not just focusing on the negative aspects, on privacy, on profiling, but how to tackle, how to understand. For this, in practical terms, what does it mean? Is that we have maybe a faculty of engineering, producing engineers, experts in nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, and linking this with global platform, global universities, And then eventually, these engineers can help also to design public policies. So that will be, some people can say, oh, this will take 3 decades, 4 decades, But it is not. If we start just right now and they say we're thinking on the new graduates, we can think about 3, 4, 5 years. So it's not too far in the future. And I think this is the role. This is the main priority now in this area is to understand how to use this technology, how to incorporate it into policies, so we are not left behind. Because we were talking for many years about the digital divide, and then developing countries will be left behind. Now I think it's time to upgrade this and to think on the possibility of AI divide. So we don't want to be left behind.
Okay, very good point. Shirley, you've been, as a knowledge leader, tell us your perspectives. Are we implementing, things properly? Do we have the right policies? Are we going in the right direction, on the right track?
Yeah,
Your
I think
thoughts?
I'm very much aligned to all the speakers here. So I believe that Indonesia is definitely at the right momentum. So our fundamental economy is really strong. And, we are rising towards a middle income level. We have a young population. We still have demographic bonus of another 7 to 8 years. And digital transformation economy can really add 1 to 2% additional GDP growth. And again, with our ambition to become golden Indonesia Emas by 2045, the ability of digital economy to unlock further growth in the overall economy is really important. And if we look at today, digital economy contribute about 7 to 8% of the total economy by 2045. We are hoping that digital economy can contribute 17 to 20% of the total economy. So again, this is very significant. And if you're talking about workforce in digital, it's like today we are still very small. It's like, 1% of the total workforce, but by 2045, we hope that can translate to 7% of the total workforce. So again, significant potential to further grow the overall digital economy. So again, I think as Pak Erlangga mentioned, we need to work together with business. So again, this is the task that needs to be embraced together as a nation. So the government launched the Digital Economy Blueprint in December last year. But again, the blueprint is not just from the government, but it needs to be embraced by all the different stakeholders, be it the business, be it the investor, be it also the academics as well. And I really believe that to accelerate the digital transformation, we need to have to work on 6 different priorities, whether it's starting from the infrastructure, how do we ensure a universal, reliable, consistent connectivity across our nation, because it needs to be an inclusive growth, and Indonesia is an archipelago. Second is, as the minister mentioned, is about upskilling and reskilling our human capital. So again, we don't want any industry to left behind. And if you look at the different sectors with agriculture, maritime, healthcare, education, there's different degree of maturity of digital. So how do we ensure that we bring up the sector together? And also in terms of the digital talent, Indonesia needs about 600,000 additional digital talent every year. So how do we work together with the university, with the schools to create a good digital curriculum to make our workforce also future ready, so that they can also embrace robotic, they can also embrace AI, and they are not left behind as well. And of course, things that, just mentioned on the business climate as well. So how do we ensure that our policy are friendly towards investor, getting the tech giant to come in, and also the businesses to invest in R&D, in digital transformation as well.
So are our policies friendly? I mean,
Well, the government has done a lot of things that to make our policy a lot friendlier, like the incentive that the government just launched to make sure that the business can continue to invest in R&D. Again, I think the business needs to embrace this, because a lot of the businesses are not yet aware of such policies. So how can we make the businesses also aware of all these different tax incentives, and also attract the foreign investor, the tech giant, to invest in Indonesia as well. So I think that's very important as well. And lastly, I think in terms of the policy and regulation, how can we also continue to make sure that our policy and regulation continue to build our digital infrastructure, whether it's cybersecurity, national single digital ID, and so on and so forth. So definitely, I think, I believe that the future is very bright. There's a lot of potential that, can further be unlocked through digital transformation.
Yes, I think you made a good point. I mean, collaboration is key, especially when it comes to formulating the right sort of policies. Six priorities. That's a lot of homework for Indonesia. We still have to address our lack of human capitals, the lack of digital talents, and of course infrastructure, the sort of infrastructure that's still needed. And maybe I'll raise some of those issues later, further down the discussion. But the right policies and the good business climate. Putri, let's have your thought as a player.
Well, thank you so much, Desi, for this opportunity. But firstly, I want to compliment the government for really, thinking through the strategy and the exact steps on how to really embrace this digital transformation, right? The government, in addition to the Making Indonesia 4.0, as Mbak Shirley mentioned, the blueprint for the digital economy in December, I think, really, again, compliment to the government for thinking of that. I would also like to compliment the government for already thinking about AI, as Pak Marco is mentioning, but I want to tease that out even more. And you mentioned that AI can replace jobs. Well, actually, there's so much more that AI can do, and we feel AI is an enabler for all industries, be it the 5 priority sectors industry in the Making Indonesia 4.0, from agriculture, from manufacturing, to automotive, across the line. We really do feel AI will be an enabler or a catalyst to this digital transformation. And in fact, we just launched our AI opportunity agenda for Indonesia. It's a white paper. We launched that earlier this month, where we mentioned that early studies have shown that if you deploy AI across the sectors of the economy, then you can get a benefit up to 13% of GDP, additional 13% of Indonesia's GDP, which amounts to $167 billion every year, by 2030. So that's the key. How can we AI, again, to Pak Marco's earlier point, well, how can we deploy AI across all sectors? Now, obviously, accessibility of AI for everyone is also important, and let me get to that point later. So the way we see it is just like any technology race. When electricity first was invented, when the steam engine was first invented, every technology race, it's not the race to the bottom. And what am I saying by racing to the bottom is, think of it as an inverted pyramid. The bottom part is where you have the infrastructure layer. So you need, high R&D, you need, big capital investment there. So think of it as countries like the US, where OpenAI and Google is home to. But, it's not on how, which country can invent the technology first, but it's how fast and how can you leverage the technology across all sectors. Again, then you would have the middle layer, which we think this is the golden nugget for Indonesia, because Indonesia is already really well positioned to reap this, which is the innovation layer, which is driven by developers, startups, SMBs that can use the AI that already being invented by the infrastructure layer, but again, across all sectors. And the very top, then you have the user layer, where you need users, high internet penetration. Again, Indonesia is well positioned because on the top and on the middle layer, we're already there. We're already on track. We're already the biggest economy in Southeast Asia, biggest digital economy in Southeast Asia, right?
Because of our huge population, obviously.
Yes. Google Bain Temasek report last year predicted the current digital economy is already $110 billion and it's poised to double and even triple by 2030 to, as Pa Erlangga mentioned, over $300 billion. So we're already have that, what it takes, young population, creative, and embracing technology. So furthermore, what our AI opportunity agenda suggested, so what should Indonesia do? We believe Indonesia should focus on 3 things, and I think this is quite aligned with the blueprint that the government released in December, which is focus on the infrastructure for innovation. And what am I talking about with infrastructure for innovation? This can be physical infrastructure such as connectivity, but it also means regulatory policy, again, that actually encourage innovation. And the second one, and we talked about this many, many times, is upskilling. Making sure you have an AI-ready workforce. And again, this has to be a collaborative manner. In fact, we've been doing a lot of our upskilling programs with various different ministries. The latest one being with the Ministry of ICT on the Digital Talent Scholarship, where we give out every year 5,000 scholarships for Indonesian public to apply and have a certification. And this year it's on AI. And then lastly, it's making sure, again, that the technology is inclusively available. And accessibility, exactly. So there's a story from Ogan Ilir, Sumatra. Ibu guru namanya Ibu Fitri. Ibu Fitri is a elementary school student teaching PPKN, kewarganegaraan, so citizenship. It used to take her 10 days to create lesson plan. But with the help of Gemini AI, and she is our participant of our Gemini Academy for Teachers, the lesson plan was created within 1 hour. And the lesson plan is, quite creative, making it fun, making it engaging for students. So AI has to, AI has to benefit all parts of society, not just developers, not just startups. We're talking about, the everyday Indonesian here.
In association with
Okay, so reskilling, upskilling, and we have all these challenges, but it's good to hear that everybody's optimistic. But are you here? Do you share? Are you as optimistic? That perhaps let's have you, maybe if you have any questions, Arshad, maybe comments, or from the industry's perspective, what would you say about where we are now and the government policies, and what do we need to do better?
Sure. I mean, I think we still have a lot of homeworks, but at least the conversation already started, and how to actually prepare ourselves, Indonesia, in the next, as we say, moving towards the golden age of 2045. I mean, we need to have a definition of. I mean, I do agree AI is great for innovation and for actually improvement of our productivity and so forth. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we have a trusted AI, which is more ethics, values and all. And that's the thing that we still have a lot of homeworks with. But I just want to ask actually something to touching on the. I mean, everyone has mentioned it. And in the next few years, we'll have bonus demography, and everyone is thinking about that, right? And this is something that we always been very worried about, because talking about bonus demography is whether it is a bonus or it is on the other side, it's become a liability, right? And I think more than 70% of the Indonesian population will be young, yeah. And right now, I think on the digital talent itself, we have like almost 9 million of, digital talent that we need by 2030, if I'm not mistaken. So now I have the question to the coordinating minister, Pak Erlangga. And I think Pak Erlangga, with this PMO and many other things, actually, has been very much, we are happy that we can work together between private sectors and that. And the question now is, Pak, about what roles, Pak, that the public-private sectors can play in this so-called talent transformation, because I think at the end of the day, the key factors is about this talent. So I'd like to ask from the perspective of our minister, what will be the roles? Thank you.
From our Kadin chairman.
I think from Kadin chairman, it's very clear. Show us the money. I think investment is a key. Indonesian economic is about 25 to 30% by the government driven through the budget, but 70% it depends on the private sectors and consumption. So I think we need, going forward, is almost 1,900 trillion investment direct to create jobs. We ask the private sectors to create jobs. Then the government will support on the human resource development, but the private sectors also given the super tax deduction. So if they support the human resource training for $1 million, the government gives tax incentive $2 million as a tax deduction for their profit and loss. So I think it's a clear support. But don't worry, we work on the system that the audit system will be different. Because I know that some of the private, the facility is not used because they're afraid to be audited. So the Minister of Finance already make it easier, the step to get this incentive.
And then I'm happy about is touching on the so-called how can we get that incentive of the super deductibles, and just want to make sure that is of doing that. So I think he touched on that, and hope we'll see how that goes.
Pak Airlangga is jotting down But I think you raise an important point here about our human capital, our demographic bonus. I think we're very proud of, but we don't want it to become the demographic liability. I'd like to open up to our panel. So let's start with you. You're nodding away there, Putri. How do we increase the talent, and what's Google doing about it in order to help us increase our...
Yeah,
Our answer is Googling.
Oh no, I do chat GPT now. Excuse me.
No, please try Google Gemini. So actually, Google have been upskilling 3.2 million Indonesians since 2018, and we're quite humbled and honored to be able to do that. And as I mentioned earlier, we've been partnering with the government in every single of our upskilling program. And out of this 3.2 million, 200,000 alone are developers. And out of those developers, we produced 15,000 Bangkit students. It's our flagship program with the Ministry of Education under the Campus Merdeka program, where it's very intensive, 900 hours. These students are taught in machine learning, cloud architecture, engineering, and mobile development. So yes, this is definitely our passion, to upskill the Indonesian. And because for us, when the Indonesian digital ecosystem grows, that's where also, we flourish. We all flourish, right? So absolutely, upskilling is super key. And in fact, a lot of our upskilling programs here are first in the world. So I mentioned the story about Ibu Fitri in Ogan Ilir, Sumatra on the Gemini Academy for Teachers. That's the first in the world that we've ever had that program in teaching teachers and how to use AI in their day-to-day life. And didn't mention this before, but we have this Google and Unity program for gaming developers. I know that that's part of the government's priority is to up-level our gaming industry. And again, that's first in the world. So a lot of our upskilling programs, and we see Indonesia's potential is very big, and we want to deliver it first here. So.
Okay, very quickly, Marco. I mean, from the Industrial Development Organization, how are you helping the government in upskilling, reskilling, and developing talents?
Yes. We are working on 5 eco-industrial parks. So we are working closely with the Ministry of Industry, Bapenas, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So in order to mainstream, in order to help the country also to downstream industries. So this is one of the major roles. But I want to say that in the area of with the demographic dividend, I mean, we have that. And what is important is to take care of 2 things. So we all, in the last 20 years, so we all wanted to be grow fast like Korea or Japan. And I think now we have to also take care of services. So we have manufacturing, but we also have services. And services is what will provide jobs to most of the people. And those people have to be trained in order to be able, and I think absolutely important, reskilling, skilling, in order to make possible for these people to support the service industry. Now in New York, so maybe you read that in New York there is a fast food chain who is employing a cashier who is not in New York but is in Philippines. Yeah? So imagine, no? So of course these kind of services are not going to transform the whole Philippines, no? It's not going to transform Indonesia, but if you put together services that are just for specific activities like restaurants or hotels or tourism, and services that are related to manufacturing, there is a big potential. And all these things can also be nurtured. So Parlangga mentioned about the ecosystem, no? And I think the ecosystem is almost complete. So you have a very good ecosystem in Indonesia in order to provide these services and create these services in the domestic market, and in order to support productive transformation in the country.
Okay, let's open it up. Paulo. Paulo is Director of Digital and Integrated Transaction from Banking at BNI. Do you have a question, comment, or maybe?
Yes, I think firstly, from this interesting discussion, I think the first one is an observation that actually the digital transformation and the digital divide is actually, for me, across two things, right? The first one is we want to make sure Indonesia is using the latest technology, the latest, in whether it's AI, electric vehicles, battery technology, to make sure Indonesia is not left behind as a country. But then within Indonesia, we also need to make sure that, no one is left behind, because obviously not everyone is proficient in, AI, in the latest technology. So I just want to firstly acknowledge the difficulty, and the government's doing a great job to balance between these two priorities. But maybe I also want to ask maybe Bu Shirley and the other panelists, what more can we be doing to across these two fronts from the learning in different countries? Because I think Mbak Putri mentioned that there's a lot of things that Google is doing in Indonesia that maybe is the first in the world. But surely we need, with our population of 270 million, there's a lot more that potentially we could learn from other countries.
Okay, wait, Shirley, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I guess to Paulo's point, I think Indonesia, given that we are very big, so I think the key is how do we ensure that nobody is left behind, whether it's from a worker perspective, but also from an industry perspective. So if you look at the other countries, whether it's Germany or Sweden, or Singapore, the government has been working very closely also with the businesses, as what the government is here also trying to do. Like, for example, Skills for the Future in Singapore, where the government worked with the industry to look at what are the skills for the future, whether it's use of more advanced technology, and how should the government work very closely with the private sector to enable and to prepare the workforce for the future. So again, I think this has to some extent also been developed through Prakerja. I think that's very revolutionary what we are trying to do. So again, doing things like this and really touching it sector by sector basis, because again, if we look at the different sectors, it's not all equal. Like, for example, agri maybe is lesser, it's more nascent compared to, maybe in healthcare or in education. And again, the pandemic actually has accelerated the use of technology in, say, healthcare. At one point, Satu Sehat has 130 million user, or the edutech has really risen a lot since the pandemic. So how do we use and continue some of the momentum that has been created through the pandemic as well? So again, there's a lot of things that we can learn from other countries, be it Singapore or Sweden, where they match also the bigger companies with the SME to get them to mentor the small, medium enterprises to have a lot more use cases of technology as well. Because
there's mentoring, I think, is important. Creating, hubs and also
creating
for the knowledge sharing.
Yes, that's right. And in Sweden, for example, the government is also giving a lot of incentive and covering 70% of the cost for the small, medium enterprises to use technology. So again, these are some of the things that, we can also embrace and learn. And of course, the government has been also doing a lot to also make sure that it's an inclusive growth for all.
The I word keeps popping up, incentive. Jafar, ASEAN, what sort of recommendations would you have for upskilling, reskilling, and also there is some kind of digital divide amongst the ASEAN countries themselves, right?
Yes, you're correct. I mean, Indonesia, I mean, you have your own issues with regard to talent gaps. I think the similar challenges are also being faced by other member states as well. But I just want to touch on, not really on reskilling or upskilling, but about tapping into the resource pool of human capital that are existing within the region, right? So when we talk about that, then the next things that we have to mention is about talent mobility. So ensuring that we'll be able to harness the talents that are available in the region and then ensure that they can move freely across the borders. I think that's something that ASEAN has been working on. So we have mutual recognition arrangements, but then this has been limited to professionals, I think on medicals, professionals, on accounting professionals. But then I think given the needs of our industries has changed, so maybe we want to look into how we want to also expand our mutual recognitions to not only address the shortage of talents within the digital sphere, but also on other emerging issues such as sustainability, right? So sustainability is also an issue that requires new talents, and then if you don't have it in the country, why not try to tap onto your neighbors? But then it requires. It's a sensitive issue, I believe. That's why we are not moving that fast. But I hope that given the urgent needs that we are facing, maybe it gives us a push for us to move forward in this area.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, collaboration is at the end of the day a key. Let's. You've got your mic there already. Chirag from Chief Enterprise Data Analytics Officer from Indosat Uidu Hutchison. Let's hear what you have to say. Any questions?
Sure. Good morning, Pamantri and esteemed colleagues. During this conversation, 2 or 3 big themes I see emerging, right? One is obviously about how Indonesia is coming up in a big way on the global arena, right? Undoubtedly, we also see that the opportunity is very big. When we look at it from our perspective, there are like at least 27 million SMBs, MSMEs, which will go digital over the next 4 to 5 years. And that's where we need to play a role, whether it is government or us together as a collaborative thing. And that brings me to the second theme, which is about the collaboration. So whatever we want to do to tap this potential, it's very important that, the collaboration, whether Parlanga talked about country to country or within Indonesia, how we collaborate, public, private, within private, we get in the right ecosystem partners. And the third thing is about, I think we talked about the upscaling or the human capital. Right now, we at Indosat definitely understand all these three, and we are doing a little bit on it in terms of, collaborating with the right stakeholders, whether it is within Indonesia or bringing in, the global tech giants, and we are working very closely with Google, and NVIDIA's and Cisco's. The objective is to bring the right technology and develop the human capital. And because the purpose of Indosat is to ensure that how we can empower Indonesia, right? So the focus areas that we have is very much similar to what we have talked about here, which is about digitalization or connectivity, because that's what we do. The second very important aspect is about AI, and we have embarked upon this whole AI journey. Security, working with likes of Cisco and bringing in the right technology investments into Indonesia, right? And from a human capital perspective, I think one of the key things, and I would put the thought here, is that how can we co-create, something like a center of excellence, where we can, it's not only about, developing or, enhancing the skill is one thing, but we can give opportunities like innovation hub, sandboxing, right? Basically where startups or, they can easily come and try out things, like we said, okay, not many are comfortable how to use AI and all, right? How can we give that environment to them? So those are the things that we are focusing on. So my thought that I want to leave with the panel or the question is that increasingly, how can we go, together to realize that dream or vision of 2045, and I'm sure Intelsat and companies like others are definitely committed towards working together.
Yep.
But how, whether it in terms of policies or creating more such forums where we can talk about partnerships.
Oh yeah,
How
well,
can we work
this
together?
is exactly the kind of forum. That's why we're doing this big idea forum, getting everybody together. Just very quickly, I open it up. Anybody wants to say about collaboration, co-creation, and you mentioned something very important. Maybe just quickly on how do we create a much secure environment in which to operate. Obviously, cybersecurity, creating firewalls, choosing the right product, and so on.
Because I'll take the opportunity because it's actually quite timely. Yesterday, our president for global affairs for Google and Alphabet, Kent Walker, just did a blog post on this, on the 7 principles of good AI regulation. And the number one is actually, first and foremost, is supporting responsible innovation. So that has been Google's mantra, is that we want to be bold in our innovation, but we want to do it responsibly and together. And the second one is a focus on outputs. So, as governments try to regulate AI, focus on how do we promote AI that create high quality outputs that are meaningful, and again, while safeguarding and mitigating risks. And the third one is strike a sound copyright balance. So we believe in fair use and copyright exceptions, but at the same time, we also believe that data owners, website owners have the right to opt out of the data crawling. The fourth one is, plug the gaps in existing law. So no need for duplication of laws. The lot of laws in Indonesia is already on top of each other, tumpang tindih. The fifth one is empower existing agencies. So we feel like every single ministry should be empowered to know AI and know what they're doing with AI. Because there's no one-size-fits-all regulation. So there cannot be just only one single ministry that's responsible for AI regulation. We need a sectoral approach on that. The sixth one is adopt a hub and spoke model. So this is kind of like the NIST in the US, where they become the research hub and the brain of AI, but then they empower other government agencies to know more about the subject. And lastly, it's the seventh one is strive for alignment. And this is alignment with, and Pak Erlangga mentioned this, alignment with international approaches and international standards, and talk to each other with other governing agencies.
Okay, because this is all borderless. When we go digital, it's like country doesn't exist anymore. Andre, we have from NISC Lab, founder and CEO of NISC Lab. We have here our young entrepreneur startup. So it's important to engage the young people. They are our future. Right, Erlangga?
Thank you for the opportunity. I have 2 questions to Pak Erlangga specifically. But before that, I would like to introduce ourselves. NISC Lab is a fabulous chip company developing electronic and photonic integrated circuits for future optical solution in AI, quantum, and also advanced semiconductor industry. So we have shipped our product to over 15 countries so far, from Bandung, Indonesia, but we have a headquarters in Palo Alto and also in Rochester, New York. And currently we are part of Luminate program, which is supported by New York State government. So
well done to you.
Yes, thank you. So my first question about how can startups like NISC Lab benefit from current and future government programs? And the second one is, are there any upcoming policies and regulation that we should aware of? Thank you.
I think we need people like you to restart the semiconductor. So I think chip design, microelectronics has been in the interest of the government. Indonesia has been absent since in the beginning, that when the automations of the chips making was not allowed at that time due to the labor intensive versus robotics. But now we cannot make a policy like that. Things are different and we manage differently. And I think Indonesia have potentials to be in the game of semiconductors. So under the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, Indonesia is one of the 7 countries that will be prioritized for the semiconductors. And you are needed to make nano chips. So if you are here with your friend, duplicate yourself. We don't need only one you. We need 1 million of you to create 1 million of jobs in Indonesia.
Okay, there you are. That's an open invitation for you.
Looking forward for follow-up.
Right.
You can follow up. Okay, we have time for a couple more questions. Anybody? Yes, could you please stand up, identify yourself, and it's always nice when you see young people, right? And
hello, distinguished speakers and participants, Mr. Minister. Thank you for the opportunity to be in the forum. My name is Ayu. I'm a co-founder of Kreologi and Duanyam. So with Kreologi, we have provided educational entrepreneurship education to over 10,000 MSME and also help them digitally transform. These are MSME in rural and remote areas of Indonesia, from Aceh to Kalimantan, NTT, and Papua. And we have also experienced being an MSME ourselves in Duanyam, how digital tools can help us sell the products made with local wisdom and resources to global market, exporting to more than 50 countries.
okay, I think you deserve a big hand here.
Thank you.
Well done.
Well done.
So I think obviously there's a lot of difficulties in areas, remote and rural parts. I think we mentioned infrastructure, right? And other than that, there are things like logistics and financial access as well. But one big thing is about digital literacy itself, right? And this is not about upskilling or digital talent, but we have experience working with MSME who already sell in online e-commerce, but then they cannot access financing because they have the negative list in the central bank. And why? It's not because of them. It's because a neighbor or someone borrow their phone and then suddenly use their account to apply for pay later and things like that. They don't know, and they cannot solve this issue, right? And this we see a lot. So I think my point is about digital literacy itself. How they can adopt, how they can be not prone to fraud, and I think it's something that I wanted to understand, like what's the role and responsibility of the private sector, of the government to help this, and whether there's room for collaboration as well for impact enterprises like us.
You've raised a very, very good point. Thank you. Digital literacy. Yeah. I would say I'm still very much illiterate when it comes to a lot of things digital, but so what's happening? These are real examples.
I think this is the real sample and the real risk of not in control of your handphone. So that's very dangerous. That's the implication is that in the banking system of digital, of course, there is KYC. Know your customer. So when you involve in one fraud, you can't go anywhere. Yes. That's because of the digital, the risk of digital. But for the small and medium enterprise that would like to have the banking facilities, that they are not involved in any fraud, government prepare like special loan, kredit usaha rakyat, KUR, that we have almost every year around 280 trillion that is available with 6% interest. The entrepreneurs who graduate, quote unquote, from Prakerja, some of them become a new entrepreneurs, selling coffee and then also selling food and beverage. And sometimes they also involve in the services industry, in repair and everything. Government is willing because they already do the training, so they pass the KYC. They are able to get the loan up to 500 million. It depends on the business.
Okay, and well, I'm afraid time is running low. Any more questions? Tommy from TBI. Tony Blair Institute. Just very quickly. I know time is up, but I do want to have one more.
Okay, one quick question to Bu Shirley. My question is on inclusivity. can we get your $1 million advice on businesses looking to invest on digital infrastructure, digital revolution in Indonesia, while also at the same time addressing the key issues that we have discussed, which is inclusivity, ensuring that also the investment can address to bridge the digital divide and strengthen the social inclusion.
Okay,
Thanks.
Tommy, that will cost you $1 million.
Please don't send me the invoice.
Very, very quickly, because we do need to wrap up.
I think that is like solving the world hunger question also. But I guess, as we all say that not leaving the SME behind is very important. So I think, as all big businesses, some of us here also, is how do we ensure that we also take our SME also on board, and SME could be your suppliers also. Yep. How do we educate them? How do we provide the right tools, the right education? The digital literacy is very important. So how do we also bring them to be a lot more literate in their digital? And again, a lot of the things the government have done, but again, it's also our job as some of the big businesses representing here to also educate our SME, our suppliers as well. So I think it's a job for all of us. So again, the key is how do we make digital to be inclusive and to build Indonesia towards Indonesia Emas.
In association with
I would like you all to give the final remarks, because we do have a new administration in October, and I would like from each of you just perhaps the input. What are the priorities? What's still what are things that need to be continued? And well, let's start with you, Putri.
I think the theme is already repeated over and over again today, which is collaboration, right? And Bapak mentioned about Google already doing a lot of upskilling and programs here, but we need more of private sector, other platforms to be supporting the government on this. So yeah, otherwise then our homework is too big. So collaboration is key.
Collaboration is key, Marco.
Well, some of the thing is that we mentioned investment and finance. Finance is always insufficient everywhere, even in the US. Yeah? So I think something we can help is to put in together the startups, the entrepreneurs, with potential financiers, and linking with the domestic finance as well, and trying to support and push for these more funds available to startups. No? Okay. One final thing is that everybody, so you ask what we can learn from overseas. And when we go to other countries, they asking what Indonesia is doing. So they are very curious, because it's not easy, it's difficult, it's this archipelago, as you said. So now we are taking notes, and what we learn, we will take it overseas.
Okay, good. Zafar.
Yeah, I think I would agree with on the fact on the importance of collaborations, and I think we need to use ASEAN as a platform to forge closer collaborations among the member states. I think Indonesia did a very good job, excellent job during the chairmanship, and I think we still need to. The leadership of Indonesia is still important for us to move forward as a region.
Absolutely. Yeah. We are a big country. Shirley?
Yeah, and I think the momentum is definitely really ripe. Our fundamental is very strong. So again, digital transformation can really unlock that additional 1 to 2% GDP growth, which we really need. And again, with the collaboration from private sector, government, and the university academia is also very important. We spoke a lot about upskilling and reskilling, and the digital curriculum is very important. So again, very bright spot for Indonesia, and definitely it's very key for us to all work together towards that dream.
Okay, thank you. Last words for you, Pak Erlangga. Your input for the next administration.
I think.
How do you make sure that they will do it?
I think Indonesia at the moment is a very good brand.
Okay.
So we are part of the global South leaders, and we are known as the revolutionary digital economy with unicorns, decacorn, 22 million of small and medium enterprises onboarding. So everyone would like to learn from Indonesia, including Prakerja has been raised in UNDP. I got a delegation from Thailand Parliament specifically would like to learn about Prakerja from Morocco, from Laos, from Cambodia. So I think with this kind of Indonesia branding in diplomacy, in the World Bank, in the IMF, and Indonesia leadership in making stability in the Indo-Pacific region for more than 20 years, it's time to continue. And continuity is becoming the program that is endorsed by President-elect Bapak Prabowo dan Mas Gibran. And one thing about AI, I think Indonesia is one of the first country who use AI for politics and has been learned by other country how Indonesia make that.
Okay, big
Thank
hands,
you.
please. I always say seeing is believing. Thank you very much, and that concludes today's The Big Idea Forum, and it's been an absolutely insightful and engaging discussion on the digital transformation of Indonesia, and we've heard from our esteemed speakers about the significant progress we have made and also the challenges we face, as well as the immense potential that lies ahead. Now, the insights shared today, of course, highlight the importance of collaboration among the government, the industry leaders, the community, and of course the young people in order to drive this transformation forward. I would also like to extend my deepest gratitude to you all, and also for our distinguished speakers. Pak Erlangga, thank you so much. Bu Shirley, Putri, Marco, and last but not least, Zafar. And thank you, of course, again for your participation. Amazing questions. Well done, very thought-provoking, and let's hope that this is something that the next government will continue. So stay tuned for more sessions of the Big Idea Forum, where we continue to explore ideas that drive progress and innovation. Until next time, I'm Desi Anwar. Thank you, and over to you, Miss AI with the Australian accent. Well, that was certainly an exciting and important discussion. Thank you all very much for participating, and I certainly hope that at least some of the ideas put forward in this forum will actually be implemented. Otherwise, what can I say, except that there won't be much hope for you humans, and us AI will soon take over the world.
Terima kasih, Anda baru saja menyaksikan The Big Idea Forum in association with